Francis Scott Fitzgerald was born in the United States in 1897, Minnesota. He was a bright, handsome, and ambitious boy, and when he was 13, he saw his first piece of writing appear in the school newspaper. He attended Princeton, but in 1917 he dropped out of school to join the U.S. Army. In these years, he met and fell in love with a beautiful 18-year-old girl named Zelda Sire. They got married after his first novel was published. It was in 1920, published to glowing review, and almost overnight, Fitzgerald turned into one of the country's most promising young writers. Fitzgerald embraced his new celebrity status and embarked on an extravagant lifestyle with his wife. He continued writing and earned a reputation as a serious literary writer. Fitzgerald's life began to lead downwards. He progressed steadily into alcoholism and suffered prolonged bouts of writer's block. His wife, Zelda, suffered from mental health issues and entered a mental care institute in 1931. In 1937, Fitzgerald attempted to revive his career and had also begun working on another novel, but the manuscript remained unfinished when he died in 1940 at the age of 44. Fitzgerald is now considered among the greatest American novelists of the modern age. He was and still is considered to be a great chronicler and satirist of the culture of wealth, extravagance, and ambition that emerged during the 1920s, the so-called Jet Age. The Jet Age is the period that goes from 1918 to 1930, after the end of World War I, the so-called Roaring Twenties. This period embodied the spirit of luxury and decadence, war and presumption, determination and failure, all to the sound of jazz. A roar that led to the Great Depression. In 1924, Fitzgerald wrote what would be credited as his greatest novel, The Great Gatsby. The novel is narrated by Nick Carraway, a Midwesterner who moves to Long Island just next door to a mansion owned by the wealthy and mysterious J. Gatsby. The author, through the use of flashbacks and flash-forward, manages to create a mysterious and charming character that is surrounded by people but doesn't even want to know them, whose actions are driven only by pure, unreasonable, and immutable love for Daisy, the woman he loved and lost but never forgot, and who is for him the pure essence of love, the only thing he deems worth living for. Daisy didn't wait for him and got married to Tom Buchanan, a polo player from Chicago, a millionaire with an arrogant demeanor. He has an affair with Myrtle, a married woman determined to evade her life. Tom will try with every means to expose Jay as a bootlegger, and in a climax scene in a hotel room in New York, Tom will finally expose him at the presence of Nick, Jordan, a friend of the Buchanans, with whom Nick has a love affair, and Daisy, who, shocked by the news, runs away with Jay following her. From this moment on, a turn of events will lead to Myrtle's death, her husband, blinded by jealousy and revenge, will kill Gatsby, who was just trying to protect Daisy, the true murderer. With its beautiful lyricism, pitch-perfect portrayal of the Jet's age, and critiques of the American dream that through hard work promised a better standard of living, The Great Gatsby is considered a masterpiece of the American literature. Although it was not until the 1950s and 1970s that the book achieved the status that still has today. Its appreciation is shown through the many adaptations produced. One of the most appreciated adaptations was directed by Jack Clayton in 1974, starring Mia Farrow and Robert Redford. Truman Capote was the original screenwriter, but he was replaced by Francis Ford Coppola. His adaptation was very faithful to the original text, in the storyline and dialogues, although more extended if compared to the length of the book. There are some little differences. Gatsby and Daisy have been apart for 5 years in the book, while 8 in the movie. Both in the book and the movie, Nick meets Gatsby at one of his parties, but if in the book they meet almost casually, in the movie Nick is summoned in Gatsby's office. In the book, Jordan was called for a private talk. Both in the novel and in the book, one of the scenes where Daisy's character is best portrayed with her shallow and deep aspects is when she has a conversation with Nick and tells him about the pain she had been through. But she also makes an observation about the fact that a woman would never marry a man with no money. In the final part, after Gatsby's death, the meeting between Nick and Wolfsheim, Gatsby's dubious partner who doesn't even show up to his funeral, is not even mentioned. At the very end of the book, Nick bumps into Tom only, but in the movie he has a small talk with Daisy too, a way to remark her indifference and triviality more than in the book. This novel has a strong impact on each generation it comes in contact with, whether through reading or watching the adaptations.